Hi, guys. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on your time zone. Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, good morning.
Yeah. Okay, great. Hello, Andrew. So glad to have you here on our workshop. Hello,
Thank
Nikita. Hello, Anita. Andrew, what we're going to do is wait for like 5 minutes maybe and get started. I will start by a short presentation of the Ikare workshops, Ikare Longevity, which is our longevity community, and then you're going to have roughly 30 minutes of presentation, and then 30 minutes of question and answers, just as we have discussed previously by email.
Okay.
Anyway, so thanks for being here, and I think it's not too late to say Happy New Year to everyone here.
Happy New
Happy
Year.
New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. Yeah, I will start the presentation because the people who are still coming will have the ability to join. So this is going to be interesting to have this presentation while people are still getting into the meeting. So I will share my screen right now. Okay. So you should be seeing my screen. So yes, welcome to our Ikare Longevity Workshops, where we try to give practical insights into living longer and healthier. Today, living 100 years in good health is no longer a pipe dream, but a realistic goal. We just need to apply preventative medicine as early as possible in our lives, and this is what we're trying to do, and to, you know, increase the visibility of what needs to be done for this to happen for each and every one on Earth. So we do this by the longevity workshops, which is what's happening today. So this is 100% free practical insights. The the goal here is again to give the most practical things that people need to do and to be able to take away with them those insights and apply them into their daily habits. It's not about theory, it's not about science, it's about very practical things that each one of us can do. And what we also do with iCare.ai is a service for the people who want to go above this and further down the road when it comes to their longevity journeys. And we pair each patient who wants to live as long and healthy as possible with a medical doctor and with a health coach with expertise in longevity. And we guide them and we assist them in their longevity journeys through personalized medicine and preventative medicine and longevity medicine. Now, that being said, let's talk about our keynote speaker today. His name is Andrew Kolasko. He's CEO and founder of Andrew Kolasko Life Center, and also a former champion natural bodybuilder with more than 40 years of weight training, athletic performance, sound eating, and nutritional practices. He's going to give an exclusive talk about longevity living and training for health span. So without further ado, let's welcome Andrew Kolasko. So Andrew, the floor is yours. Please, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and allow yourself to share your screen.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. Appreciate the opportunity to be here and to speak to your community. I'm just going to jump right into it. To age
Let's go.
successfully, okay. To age successfully, you've got to train successfully. How are you going to train for your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, and 80s, and beyond? If you're watching this and you're over 40, you need to start planning now. And today, I'm going to show you, if you were my client, what I would optimize for in order to help you create the best future life possible and to put those best years of quality life in front of you. We Because, we try to avoid thinking about our mortality in that last decade of life. It's kind of a natural thing that we do, but it's real. It's coming, and ignoring it won't make it go away. It's inevitable. So you got to snap out of that head in the sand thinking, now is the time. Today, I'm going to show you the top 3 things that you need to be life training for. And I'm going to share with you my specific training that I have in place for one of my own clients. He's my 72-year-old client, and how he is crushing it. Because with absolute certainty, nothing compares to exercise. Nothing compares to having a high VO2 max, high muscle mass, and high muscle strength. And to be clear, it's not exercise, it's training. You need to train for something specific. Calibrate your exercises into the purpose of training for a specific goal in mind. First off, your number 1 indicator for your longevity is your VO2 max. Your VO2 max refers to the maximum rate at which your muscles can extract oxygen from your blood and use it to generate energy. A robust VO2 max will allow you to live a great health span. Your VO2 is an indicator of the quality of your overall cardiovascular system and functionality. It can serve as a metric for tracking your progress and exactly where you are and what you're able to do physically at any age. You'll be able to, because in this life, you want to be able to do the things you love. Keep doing the stuff that you love to do. Whether it's racing your 8-year-old grandson across the park, you want to keep doing that hike that you love, you want to have sex with your partner, walk easily up a set of stairs with 2 10-pound bags, do those 18 rounds of golf, lift your own luggage in the overhead when you finally get to do that vacation that you've been waiting your whole life for. And, I mentioned some of these things, and you may be thinking, hey, well, those aren't really big deals. I can do those, but guess what? Those are big physical capabilities that you'll want to have when you're older. We just can't take for granted what we do at age 40 and somehow magically assume that you'll be able to do this at age 60. You can't just expect for that physical capacity to be there. You have to train sufficiently ahead of the aging curve to get to the shape that you want to be at that future age. As an example, I've got a VO2 max chart, and on it, what it shows is the different ages and kind of what your capability is at different ages, okay? Now, my goal with my clients is to be 2 decades ahead of that, because that's the average, okay? That doesn't have to be your average. And hey, average in the American, based on the American lifestyle, what we have, it sucks, okay? No question. You do not want to be falling in the average. So I'm going to take a 35-year-old example and then imagine at 55 what you should be able to do. So when I look at that VO2 max chart, it shows that a healthy 35-year-old with a good VO2 max can jog 6 miles up a steep hill. If you're 55, that needs to be your goal. So I'm using that for an example. Why? Because your VO2 max is your cardiovascular capacity, and it's going to decline at about 15% every year after age 50. So the good news is that you don't have to put in, is that you can do it. The good news is this is achievable, but you do have to put in the time. You have to be consistent. You have to be continual over those years as you age. And what we need to be going for that cardio, that VO2 max training, is an 80-20 split. So that means that 80% of your cardio needs to be in zone 2. If you're in zone 2, you can walk, you can carry a conversation with a little bit of struggle, but you can't sing. That's how you know you're in zone 2 if you don't have like a wearable or something like that. That is a good way to do it, to know that you're there. And hey, it's not so bad. You know, if you only really need to do about 3 or 4 hours a week in that zone 2, it's very attainable, very doable. So, and then the other 20% of that cardio VO2 max training is training your VO2 max, which is an all-out interval training. This is a lot more challenging output, but it is the smallest portion of your training week. So it's good that way. What I like to do is the Norwegian 4x4. This is 4 minutes of going all out on the treadmill, or you could bike, you could run. I like to do heel repeats on my mountain bike, for example. There's different ways you can do it. But on the treadmill, I'm about 7.1 miles an hour at about 1.5 incline. I do 4 minutes all out, then a 2 to 3 minute rest, 4 minutes all out, repeat until I've completed 4 4-minute sprints, letting in between my heart rate go down to about 100 beats. So whatever you do, you want to keep that all out consistent, okay? It's important that you're not going in between different zones too much. You want to be able to maintain that high intensity for that run. So, and what I'm going to draw this back to is, isn't it interesting? If you look at our ancestors, okay, our hunter-gatherers, and I don't say that because these guys live a long time, okay, because their average age was around 35. And another thing was the birth rate mortality really brought the age down. But what I want to draw the similarity to is that the way that we naturally functioned in our origins, like how did we go about our days? Well, they spent their days carrying packs, carrying things for long distances. There was a lot of walking involved, and a lot of, like, say, the carrying the things that, you know, gathering of things, and often that put them in zone 2. And when they had to kill an antelope or a mammoth or whatever else they were hunting, that's your VO2 max training. That's about 20% of the, you know, maybe 10, 20% of their time was spent all out sprint. Just saying, this is a natural evolution, okay? And this is what our bodies are meant to do. And so what's really cool too is if you look at the elite athletes, you look at the Olympic cross-country skiers, you look at the Tour de France cyclists, they are doing this exact same split. They, of course, their capacity may be far greater than ours, but they're still spending 80% approximately of their week in their training in that zone 2, and only 20% in that all-out, you know, HIIT training, that Norwegian 4x4 or VO2 max training. So we just need to bring it down to ours. So the similarities I'm bringing between our ancestors and then the elite athletes on the planet is that this is what works best. This is what we're meant to do. It's a very good fit. So number 2, let's look at our strength training and how it enhances our longevity and our health span. As published in Aging and Disease, the 2018 February 9th, a role of dietary protein and muscular fitness on longevity and aging research study, it showed that muscular strength is inversely and independently associated with all-cause cardiovascular mortality, even after adjusting for cardiovascular fitness. As well, other research studies have shown the relationship between grip strength and longevity. Literally, how hard you can squeeze something in your hand is going to determine your longevity. Our grip strength is a primary point of contact with almost every single thing we do, from swinging a golf club to chopping wood. If our grip strength is weak, everything else is compromised. You see, your grip strength is a proxy for your overall body strength. Just know that the amount of grip strength is simply an indicator of the underlying muscle function and mass that you have. So just squeezing one of those hand grip exercise thingies, you know, watching, binging your Netflix, that's not going to do it, okay? You're not going to get the same result. It needs to be that overall body that's just the way they do the measurements, the easiest way to actually do the study. But the strength training, that's gonna lead us into a point number 3. Okay, so that's muscle building. Resistance training needs to be a standard staple of your fitness development. It's essential for your living and enjoying a long life, doing real life things, everyday things. And did you ever hear a 60 or 70-year-old say, I wish I didn't have so much muscle? No. That's something that you will have to deal with because of sarcopenia. Because the amount of muscle you have is correlated with living longer. A 10-year observational study of 4,500 people aged 50 plus showed that those with a low muscle mass had a 40 to 50 greater percentage of mortality risk compared to those with a low. So it's like 40 to 50% less chance when you have weak strength compared to someone else your age that has a strong grip strength. So we need to avoid that sarcopenia. That's age-related atrophy. And osteopenia, that's a degradation of our bone density. Plus, your skeletal muscle is going to help you protect yourself if you get a bang into something or you trip, you land hard. Because sadly, and this is a unbelievable stat. I mean, if you're 65 or older and you fall and you break a femur or a hip, your mortality risk over the next year is 35%. So you've got a 65% chance that you'll be alive 12 months later. It's not good. And if you were using a cane before that, you'll be in a walker. If you were using a walker before that, you'll be in a wheelchair. If you're in a wheelchair, you're going to be bedridden. So this is critical to our health span, the functionality, our ability to be able to just live life and do the things we want to do. So lean muscle mass will also help you be metabolically healthy and flexible, because having muscles big enough is important for effective blood sugar regulation and proper and efficient glucose disposal, because your muscles, that's where you dispose of the glucose. The difference between you and someone with type 2 diabetes is so bad. If type 2 diabetes so bad that they're about to have their digits amputated, is an extra teaspoon of glucose in your bloodstream. So normal, 1 teaspoon. Abnormal, you're about to get your digits amputated. You've got type 2 diabetes, 2 of these. So our bodies are amazing the way they can regulate, but when it gets to a point, they won't be able to absorb that glucose, but having muscles big enough. So glucose would spike with a sugary drink, because that glucose needs to go somewhere, and that's glucose disposal. So that's why you need to have your muscles, because that is what it is used for. The less muscles you have, the less well that you'll do. You want to be insulin sensitive. And one of the ways to do that is to have sufficient lean muscle mass to dispose of that glucose. This is what it means to be metabolically flexible, your ability to use and dispose of glucose efficiently. So insulin sensitivity is a key component of avoiding syndrome X that you've heard about, metabolic syndrome. And be aware too, when you are looking at your traditional weight exercises, sometimes those may not be the best things to do, because when you get to a certain age, I'm talking about, deadlifts, I'm talking about some squats, although there's a way to still get that functionality out of it. I'm just saying that you need to expand upon that. When I talk about my training for my 72-year-old, you'll see how we're kind of adapting that, because the functionality, your ability to move lateral, your ability to function overall needs to be there. So it doesn't need to just be those core, hardcore exercises. The main takeaway here is we need to stop pointlessly exercising. We need to do specific training. Now, this example I'm talking about, his name's Gordy. He's 72 years old. This guy's goal is to be able to be skiing out through his 70s. He wants to still be at the top of that hill when he's 80. And That's great. And when I start working with my clients, one of the first things we want to do is find a why. Because to motivate you, to get you up to be able to do these things, you need to have that why in mind. Because when you have that why in mind, that can be your driving force. That's the resounding meaning behind doing that. So it's spending time with your family, spending time with your partner, it's being able to vacation and do all those physical things you want to do. So for Gordy, once again, skiing, that's his passion. So we want to work on strengthening his legs, yes. And more specifically, so this is where we're training for something specific, okay? And it's not that these aren't good life skills, aren't good life physical abilities, but for Gordy, we're just nuancing it a little bit so that he can be able to keep doing the skiing. So that side to side movement where you traverse back and forth through the snow, that's called skidding in skiing. That's about your turns and your agility on the hill. So and you need to have overall speed control. Importantly, the ability to put on the brakes. And this is why some people get hurt when they get older and they trip and they fall. And that's one of the main injury things that happen when you get older, because you don't have that ability to put on the brakes when you set up off a curb or something like that. So I have him for his VO2 max training, so that his 4x4 actually, we started him at a 2x2, so 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, and then we moved to a 3 minute, and that's where he is now. He's a 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off. So, we adapt it depending on what you're at, but he's got an elliptical at his home. So he does his VO2 max training with the elliptical. So he's back and forth with, and that's giving him that life skill, but it's also giving him the skill to be able to do what he's going to be able to want to keep doing as he ages. So his resistance training takes into account his balance and his coordination and that agility, that quick response time that he needs. So I have him also practicing weighted kettlebell curtsies. So if I was to show you, you know what a curtsy is? Well, you've got a kettlebell in one hand. So you're curtsying back, but you've got a kettlebell in the other hand, and then you curtsy side to side. So once again, a little more practical training. Of course, it's going to strengthen his legs, but it's going to get in that side to side that he needs. This is good for anybody that age or plus 50. So another thing that we do with Gordy is step ups. Okay, so you do a step up and then a step down off of a platform, and that platform's height can be depending on your ability, but we put it at appropriate height for Gordy, and then we focus on the concentric, which is the shortening of the muscle, and then the eccentric, which is usually the lengthening of the muscle. So what happens is when he's stepping up, it's a very athletic, controlled movement, okay? And the eccentric on the way down, that is that's important to keep control of. So maybe a count of 1 to 3 seconds, because you want control. And it's kind of, counterintuitive, because I saw this gentleman at the gym last week, and he's obviously in his 60s somewhere, and you can tell he has trouble walking. His gait isn't right. That's another thing you can decide. That's a measurement that they use to determine old age, is your gait, your ability to walk. And you can tell he's off. He's got like a knee brace on, but I see him doing the step ups, and he's bouncing up and down. He's like Bugs Bunny there. He's going up and down and up and down. And I'm going. So finally, after seeing this a few weeks, like, I'm gonna say something to him, right? So I told him he's got to slow it down. He says, "Well, I've always done it that way. That's just the way I am." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm trying to help you here, because, like I said, it's kind of counterintuitive. You think if you did those quick movements, then you'll be able to respond quickly, but it's not like that. Your muscle doesn't respond that way. You need that control on the concentric and the eccentric, and it needs to be a gradual movement, not using gravity to do the work." Okay, so you can see how this guy is not getting this other gentleman is not getting the proper development that he needs to have that control to be able to put on the brakes. Okay, so we've adapted Gordy's training to make sure that he can do that. It's got to be a quality movement. We can't take our minds off it and just go through the motions. We need to focus. If there is a chat, I can put a link in that would, I can show you some of the quality movements that we do, that I have Gordy doing. That's a YouTube link. You could go check it out. I've got like 25 different exercises. You could do that. So you can let me know towards the end. I can always drop that in the chat if you want or something like that. So since working with me, Gordy's muscles in his legs and his chest, his back, his arms have really filled out. And the guy looks great. They say you can't build muscle after 50. Bullshit. You absolutely can. That is a fallacy. I put on like 7 or 8 pounds in the last 7 or 8 months. So it sounds like a lot, right? But it's really, with the proper protein intake and the proper training, you can do that. And I've never used steroids or any performance enhancing drugs whatsoever. So obviously, besides the longevity benefits, you want to look good. Who doesn't want to look good? And we've got him looking years younger. You should see how fit and athletic this guy is. See how he looks in a t-shirt. So when you're on vacation and you want to look good. And plus, my longevity training, I also take into account all the finer things with your appearance, because you want to look good, feel good, play good. That's kind of my motto. And so you want to, help diminish wrinkles, have supple skin. That's important too. So a 16-week randomized study in Scientific Reports, that's a 2023 study on June 23rd, showed that the resistance training counteracts skin aging, such as deterioration in skin elasticity and dermal thickness. So that's another nice bonus. Aerobic training also had positive effects with skin elasticity and upper dermal structure. So, here's the thing. I would tell any client, when you get to, you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, you have put your life, you put your intellect, okay? All your savvy, all your will, all your time and your energy into your career, building your business, building your wealth, building your empire. And now you need to think about the quality of your health and the vitality of your future, because all that don't mean anything. This is your physical capability, your ability to do those things. That's the wealth that money can't buy. So you got to put in this time. So because you go on and enjoy the spoils of your life, to have good health with your family and your friends, because your loved ones, they want the best of you. They want to spend as much time with you and get the real you, the essence of you, and you have to feel well and be in good physical condition to give them the best of you. To have those best health experiences, you need and have those rare air experiences. That's what you got to do. And you can, absolutely. So, you put so much of yourself into serving others in your business, in leading others, teaching others. You also, I believe, have a responsibility at this age to put your life lessons, to put what you have learned, all those smarts, your skills, your knowledge, and be able to distill them into members of your family, your grandkids, and others, and be of service. And you got to be in the physical state where you can effectively teach and pass on what you've learned. So for all the profound aspects of aging gracefully and enjoying your health span and the enjoyment of your future years, to work on your cognitive capacity, to work on the agility, to work on your mobility, to have the bone density that you need, to have the muscle strength and muscle lean mass that you need, you got to do the work. And finally, I want to leave you with this. You got to think big picture. You got to have a holistic plan that is a customized plan of execution specifically for you, because we're all different. And you can prioritize the things on the list that of the most important things that you need to do. And then, because it might be different for you than it is for someone else, but prioritize those areas of your health that need attention first, then hone and master the most important protocols and modalities for you. That is my presentation for you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Very interesting, and so many questions that arise as I listen to you. I've noted them down, and I can't wait to ask them. But again, as I usually do, if anyone in the audience wants to ask their questions, I would give them the priority. So please go ahead if any of you have any questions.
I just have one quick question. When you were talking about VO2 max, which, you know, that was really key. I remember chatting with I think he was an expert in autoimmune diseases. And they're saying that HIIT is actually a bad thing. So I was wondering, what do you think about interval walking? You know, where you walk quite quickly for 3 minutes and then stop? Because I understand that helps with cardiovascular. I just wondered what your thoughts were on that.
Well, you've got to meet the person where they're at. Okay, so it depends on their physical capability. I would have to dispel that is not a true statement about not being able to do HIIT. Now, maybe he had it or she had it in the context of it being something that was jarring, something that was having impact. If they meant it that way, okay, I get it. That's why I do my 4x4 on the treadmill. I actually don't do it running because I can't take the impact of the hard surface. So, but on the treadmill, I'm fine. You know, my knees, my joints can take it. But if I go to the hard track and try the same thing, oh boy, you know, 15, 20 seconds in, my knees can feel it. And, you know, I'm extremely good shape, but I'll tell you that can hit you that way. So you need to find the way to do it so that it's not impactful. So that's where I think maybe this person was alluding to that. So so depending on your level, once again, walking might do that, but I would be surprised if you're going to be able to get it up into a very high VO2 max training, that the higher level that you need just through fast walking. I don't believe that. I think unless you were at a certain stage where that was that hard for you, and that's a good place to start. One of the things I do, and if you look at my YouTube channel, I have a whole series of them. I do rucking. Rucking is walking with something heavy on your back, okay? This is a really good substitute, and I'll tell you why. You know, it's 6 times less chance of injury from, say, running. And what's nice is that it's putting that force on you, and it's something that feels good about it. Like I said, I talked about our ancestors with them carrying packs and that type of thing. I think that this is part of an innate part of who we are. And when you have that weight on you and you feel that force, it's something that feels so natural about it to me. So I would suggest that maybe you move up to that first, and then maybe you can move to a treadmill after that, depending on, you know, how you progress. But what that's going to help you with, it's going to help you because your bone density will increase with your muscle contraction. So what's nice is you're putting that force on there, but it's not a jarring, it's not a hard hit, right? So, and maybe that's what they meant by hit. I can see hit sounds violent. It sounds jarring. It sounds like, yeah, that could hurt. So I think I'm getting more of the idea of maybe what that person meant. So, but yeah, it's really nice that way. And then you can work up in weight as well as your capacity to do it grows. So that's another suggestion. Another good one, of course, would be biking, right? You can go on a bike. You're not going to have that hard hit. And I'm talking probably a stationary bike, right? Because if you're out on a road bike, you can't really keep up that consistency. One of the things I said that was important there is you want to keep, if it's a 2-minute or 3-minute or 4-minute interval, you want to keep the consistency from the beginning to the end, okay? And you might not be able to do that on a road bike. With a stationary bike, you can. With a row machine, you probably could. Those are some of the things I would recommend to keep you safe and not keep you from getting hurt, for sure.
Just before you finish there, what about rebounding as well? Does that actually help with the bone density as well?
Well, you've got to be careful. I think you're talking about plyometrics, is commonly how they're referred to, plyometrics. You've got to use, I tried them with Gordy. Let's use Gordy as an example, okay? He does have a bone spur on the back of one of his heels, kind of, and he can't do them. But I thought, oh, this is great. We're going to do this plyometrics. We're going to have him jumping like I had him going on a platform. It was a soft platform too. It was one of those foam boxes, but it was not good for him. It was too jarring. It was too much hit. So,
oh no, I meant like a trampoline. You get those rebounding.
Oh, like a trampoline. Yeah. I think that's okay. My preference over that would be doing something more like a Bosa ball. I mean, where you're able to work on your stability. Once again, like when we were doing the step ups with Gordy, or we were doing the weighted curtsies with the kettlebell, okay, it's a very controlled movement. We're not jarring because it's counterproductive. Like it's counterintuitive, because like that gentleman I talked about is jumping up and down on the step ups and he's not taking a break. He's letting gravity do it. I don't see a lot of value in that. I know I've seen guys saying skipping rope and that type of thing, but I think it's better to train that muscle to respond properly. When you are not building that muscle when you're jumping up and down on a trampoline. You're not. When you're doing plyometrics, you're not. Those are more for, I would say, more for specific training for specific sports. They're great. They should be done. But I think plus 50, I wouldn't necessarily recommend them unless it's something that you love to do. If you love jumping rope, if you love doing that trampoline, go for it. I'm not going to say don't, but I wouldn't prioritize it as far as training my muscles to do what I need them to do. Like I said, you fall and over 65, falls are a huge part, like I say, and there's a 35% chance, up to 35% chance that you would pass away after breaking a femur or a hip after age 65. So it's better to train that muscle. Just going up and down and up and down and up and down, it does not tend to train it that way. It seems like it would, but it doesn't. It doesn't train it to be able to respond effectively.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, guys? Or should I jump into No, Adrian, of course.
Yeah, let me just ask a quick question. Sorry, I was dual meeting, so I was kind of going in and out of the meeting for the first half. So you might have touched on this already, but for your VO2 max, do you recommend any kind of test to measure that, or with your people, are you just saying, hey, as long as you're progressing in your zone 2 and your HIIT training, then you're good? Or do you say test that over time? Or, do you do a true VO2 max, or do you do kind of a substitute test? Just wondering how you track that in their progress.
Adrian, fantastic question. Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought it up because I omitted that. When you work with me, I work with my clients a minimum of a year. So what we like to do is have that VO2 max testing done right at the beginning before we start anything. And then we'll do it again at 6 months, and we'll do it again at 12 months. And now we're going to know, are we making progress? Because, yeah, I'm really glad you brought this subject up, because so many fitness influencers, what they like to do is do the before and after picture. So I look like before, this is what I look like after. Well, that's great for your ego, but as far as having really robust health and having your body composition and having all that metabolic health that you need and be able to have that cardiovascular that you need, you can't tell by a picture. That's just a body fat weight thing. And to me, it's almost useless. I mean, except that if you came in to me as a client and you were quite obese and you needed to work on that, Well, that's great because that might be a higher priority for you. But let's say that you're, average to above average coming in. You've got good health. You have those modalities that you've implemented in your life. Then the before and after, especially at this age, at 50 plus, 60 plus, 70. I mean, the before and after, it's not so relevant. But how you get relevance is through VO2 max. That VO2 training, testing, to get that testing done first. The other one that I recommend, the other one that I do with my clients is a DEXA scan. Okay, so it's MRI scan of your whole body, because that way I'm going to know exactly what your body composition is. I don't need a photo to tell me before and after how you're doing, because that may or may not be good. A lot of these fad diets and that type of thing, you will lose lean muscle mass. And that is not a good thing. So just losing weight doesn't mean health benefit. There are people that maybe slightly overweight, but they are way better than somebody that's too skinny and does not have lean muscle mass. So you're able to tell what your body fat percentage is. You're able to tell what your bone density is. These are real among other things. These are real markers of what matters. So we will do that at the beginning. We'll do it at 6 months, and then we'll do it at 12 months. That's how we know.
Do you send them do you send them somewhere to get that done, like along with the DEXA? Because I know the DEXA is that's
I have in my city. I have facilities that do that. So I would locate a facility in your area that does that, and I would take them there. But I mean, it's part and parcel. I really, because they should want to know what the progress is. And progress is great because that'll keep you motivated. When they get on that VO2 max in 6 months and they see that they've seen improvements, they get that DEXA done and they've seen that their body fat's gone down and their bone density is strong. And these are real markers. These are real biomarkers. They're not guessing and looking in a mirror. And
arguably maybe the two most important for longevity. So very good. At least where I fall.
I think people, even older, I mean, I'm very influenced by pop culture, but I mean, so you want to look at these bodies and stuff, you want to achieve that, but I mean, you got to think sensibly, like what matters. It's not just about being skinny. It's about having that body composition that's going to be able to give you the function that you need when you're older. And I see too many older people getting skinny way too fast. And like I said, after age 50, you're dropping by like 15%. If you're not doing anything to maintain it or to work on it, you're dropping 15%. So you don't want to start at a deficit. You want to have a good base. Like I said, you got to be thinking 15, 20 years ahead. That's where I want to be then. So I need to be in a certain state right now.
All right, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions, guys?
Yeah,
Yes, Anita.
Quick question about, because you mentioned metabolic
health, yeah. Metabolic flexibility, was that what it is?
No, not so much that. It's more about mitochondria, because I know that certain exercises can improve the density, and I was just wondering, what would you consider would be the best exercises for that?
Well, exercises are really relative. I think, if you're doing a good quality exercise, I mean, I don't think there's anything in particular would do that. I make sure that you have a full body, balance of your exercises, so that you are working your lower body, that you are working your hips, that you're working your back, that those are the key ones. So, I mean, my favorite exercise to do for all full body is a hex bar squat. And what that is you hold it at your side. You hold it at your side, and then you do your squats like that. It is, it's going to work your legs. It's going to work your hips. It's going to work your back. I think for all over stimuli, that's the one I would recommend. If I could only pick one for you, because you're going to work your traps. You're going to, like I say, you're going to work your shoulders. It is your erector muscles. These are all things that are going to come into play. So, I mean, if I had to pick one, that's the one I would pick. But you're going to want to have a well-rounded, something that's going to be able to work all aspects of your body. If you apply proper force to any exercise, you're going to get that benefit from it. So, and it doesn't matter if it's free weights, doesn't matter if it's cables. You put sufficient force against it, and you will get the benefits of the building, the hypertrophy from it, the conditioning, the strength from it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next question. Okay, so let me jump into my own question. So, yeah, Andrew. So very interesting conversation we have so far. There's something I'm wondering. You have those different categories of exercises, right? So you have the high intensity training, you have the strength training, you have resistance training, zone 2 training, and so on. How do you balance? What's your methodology behind balancing those different categories of exercises for each one of your clients? And how do you find the limiting factor in each one of your clients to work in as a priority?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. I think one of the most important things you need to establish up front with your client is how much time are you willing to put aside for this? So I don't like the approach coming in and saying, this is the amount of time that you have to do. Because I find that can be counterproductive, because once again, you need to meet the person where they are. So if they say they can put 3 or 4 hours in, then I will adjust that appropriately. So the goal is I would spend about, half of that cardio, the VO2 max training, about, in that zone 2 and the VO2 max training, half of your week, and the other half would be that muscle strengthening. It'd be that muscle for muscle building. So I want to move them up, right? Obviously, I want to get them more hours in, but I don't want to come in and so you got to, it depends on the person's ability, what they're able to do, and the most important thing is we need to see success. To see success, then whatever time that you're able to commit to it, we want to maximize that time. So it is important to calibrate it just right. So that half of that cardio, the aerobic half, once again, that's an 80-20 split. So you got 80% in that zone 2, maybe 85%, and then you've got 15 to 20% in that VO2 max training, which I used HIIT as an example, which is the all-out and interval type of training type of thing. And then your other half is going to be your muscle building. And and obviously I'm going to want to move them up, but that's how I'm going to calibrate it. I'm going to split it right down the middle. But there's that nuance to the cardio, the aerobic side, and then the muscle training on the other side.
Okay. Well, what about joint flexibility? This is something you haven't talked about, and which also seems to be very important when it comes to longevity.
Yeah, well, it absolutely is. I mean, that's the thing that you want to be, when you get to this age, your chance of getting hurt is a lot greater. So when I was talking about the concentric and the eccentric movements, that's what it comes down to. If you want joint strength and joint mobility, you will focus on that. So the concentric, if I was using a bench press, the concentric is the up. It's a controlled fashion that you want to go. It's an athletic push, right? And then on the way down, the eccentric, that 1 to 3 second count. Try to do a full range of movement. Try not to do a short movement. And that's the other reason why I wasn't a big fan of the idea with bouncing up and down when you're doing your step ups, because you're not or some form of that where you're using gravity to do it, and you're using momentum to do the movement. You need to slow down and make sure that you, like I said, you want to train with intent, you want to train with focus. And You want to be able to do a full movement. So although you're going to have to drop your weight, you might have to put your ego aside, but you want to be able to do that concentric and eccentric and be able to focus on both. Too many people just focus on the concentric, and then they let it, you know, they think that all the growth, all the benefits in here, but it's not. It's, if anything, the eccentric on the way down, if you're doing squats on the way down, or you're doing whatever movement on the way down, you're doing you know, a bicep curl the way down, you know, you go like this. You see guys at the gym doing this. I see old guys doing this all the time. Well, that's not going to help their joints. If they slow it down, then we're going to be able to work on the musculature that's around that area, and that's going to help strengthen. Plus, your ligaments and your other tendons and that type of thing are going to be more conditioned to do that strength. That's to say, it's kind of counterintuitive. You think if you did it really fast, you'd have good response time, but it's not. It's the ability to train your tendons, your ligaments, and your muscles to be able to do that movement and be able to have that supportive tissue around it to support it the best way. And finally, another thing you've got to do when it comes to joint health is you've got to do a proper warm-up and a proper cool-down. I loved going to the gym when I was in my 20s and 30s, and I'd just go there and just pump, work out, you know, do these big lifts, and then leave. I just hit the floor, lift, then leave. And you can't do that anymore. You really, you know, head bone's connected to the neck bone's connected to the backbone's connected to the hip bone's connected to the femur. And so you know, you think you're working legs, but then you hurt something over here, right? So I really feel that I need to get that in a warm up. I need to get that full body warmed up. Even though I might, if I'm just working on a certain body part that day, I want to get everything warmed up because I feel I need that fluidity for the movement throughout, as well as it actually helps with intent too. It helps frame your workout. It helps put you in the motion rather than just hitting the floor and starting to lift. And once again, that cool down, that's important because that's going to help you with recovery. So I don't do this. I do active movements for my warm up. So I'm going through motions. You know, I might be doing side to side, stretch, side to side movement sometimes, but it's more of an active movement. But when it comes to the cool down, it's more of a stretch movement. Okay, so that's going to help me with. It's going to help me with soreness to help alleviate soreness. It's also going to help with that recovery, so that I'm able to be able to go back next time. And so I do more of the stretching at the end, and so these things are also helping, you know, protect those joints. So that warm up's helping, you know, to warm up those areas around your joints, and so that you're able to take it. And then when you cool down, when you're doing the stretching, that's going to help, you know, give the pampering back to the recovery that those joints are going to need after your workout.
Thank you, Andrew. I have another question. Can you give us some examples of your clients and how quickly they have improved their VO2 max, and to what extent? You say that you are working with them on a yearly basis.
Yes.
What can you realistically hope out of a workout session and process with you after a year? Are you going to get 10% of VO2 max or 20%, or what were you able to achieve with your clients?
I think it's about half. And I think in the first 6 months, I think it's okay to want to establish a 7 to 8% increase in that performance, whether it's VO2 max or whether it's the amount of muscle. And then after a year, yeah, it's more like a 10 to 15%, depending on, you know, especially when it comes to VO2 max, because we're calibrating it, we're getting it just right. And I think that's kind of the realm of what I would think was reasonable. But I have had individuals that have better response than that. See, this is what's interesting, is because if you are, you know, a trained individual, you will actually see less percentage growth results, right? If you take an untrained individual, you will see more massive changes. So your VO2 max, like you could see it go up, but you could see it easily go up by 20%. If you're coming in very unconditioned, very untrained, in a year, we could see a 20% improvement. So it's because you get your gains both with muscle growth and as well as with your VO2 max capacity. You're going to see greater gains if you're starting at a lower level, if you're starting at more of a deficit, because because your body responds. The VO2 is going to respond quicker if you're untrained. Like you're going to see a greater result than if you come in and you're quite conditioned. Like Gordy, he's in pretty good shape when he showed up, right? So I mean, to get him up 10-12% after a year, it's a good accomplishment. But somebody else might see double that result if they came in at a really low level.
Very interesting. Another question I have is, so what was it? Yes, absolutely. So this zone 2 training seems pretty counterintuitive to me, because we have been educated to consider that if we push ourselves during training, then you're going to make more progress. And zone 2 training is about doing sort of easy stuff, right? You don't push yourself too hard, and yet this should represent, according to what you said, 80% of your training time.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing of it. It really is. It's time intensive though, right? So if you're able to put in 3 or 4 hours a week of cardio aerobic training, that means you're only spending about 30, 40, 45 minutes in that HIIT training, that high level. You're only spending about that much a week on that. And then you're spending your other 3.5 hours, you're spending on that bike. You're spending a stationary bike. You're going rucking, or you're on whatever it takes to get you in that zone 2. I mean, usually walking isn't enough, right? It needs to be something a little bit more than that. That's why I suggested rucking, but it's a beautiful thing. It's just putting in the time. What too many people are doing wrong is they're going up in between the zones too much, right? So, they're spending too much of their week there. I mean, a popular thing is to go to a class and then they have you do all this. You do that over 45 minutes or an hour, and they've got you doing different, strength exercises. They got you doing different movements, and they've got you sprinting, and it's not that it's useless. Okay, I want to make that very clear. It's not that kind of cardio aerobic training is not useless. It just doesn't optimize and maximize the use of it. What you want, and this is what zone 2 does, okay? It's a wide base. It gives you a nice wide base for your cardiovascular system. And then the HIIT, the VO2 max training, that's your peak. You want an all peak, you want a wide base. And when you have that is going to maximize your VO2.
That's outstanding. Yeah, makes sense. Thank you very much. So zone 2 training is about roughly 60% of your maximum frequency heart rate, right?
Yeah, 60 to 70%. That's correct.
67.
Yeah. And you you want to maintain it. You want to keep it consistent. So you're really calibrating. You really are. So that's why we're going to see improvements, whether you're putting in 3 hours a week or you could put in 9 hours a week. We're able to get the most out of that. That's the other thing, right? We only have X amount of time, and a lot of my clients are very busy. So we have to optimize that time. I don't want to see them wasting their time, in doing those other zones and that kind of thing. It's not that they're useless. It's not that It's not that they don't do anything. It's just that it doesn't maximize and optimize that what we need it to do. I know no junk miles. We want to make sure that all the time that they spend is going to be productive.
Okay, maybe one last question before time's up. You haven't talked about diet, and if you want to add muscle mass, diet is a very important component.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up. I mean, yeah, that has everything to do with your body composition, as besides your training. Now, nutrition doesn't matter as much as some people think it does. But it is calories in, calories out does mean something. But I mean, the amount of calories that you have in, the quality of them does depend. I mean, 1,000 calories of Tic Tacs or 1,000 calories of Snicker bars compared to 1,000 calories of broccoli, it's not the same thing for nutritional value. But they both, as far as your overall body composition, your overall energy balance, your overall body energy balance is what you want to achieve. That's why the calories do matter, but to optimize, you want to be able to, have those be a value. So you got to have the right amount of macronutrients, the right amount of micronutrients. Now, what's an absolute staple in diet is this. I'm really glad we covered it. I just didn't think I had enough time to do it, so that's why I didn't touch it. So I'm glad you brought it up. But 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if you are 180 pounds, that's 180 grams of protein that you need. And I don't care if you're vegan. I don't care, if you want to go all carnivore. I think you should have more of a balance in that. But what I'm saying is, when it comes to diet, you've got to make sure that protein component's in there. That is the most important thing. Then the other things, you can basically fill in the blanks with. You don't want to be weak on you've got to have your greens. Fiber is very important. So you got to make sure you've got that. But the protein, that protein, that's a hard thing that you need to follow. And most people's protein is not high enough, and you won't be able to build the muscle mass that you need, or keep the muscle mass that you need as you age if your protein intake is not high enough. And another thing that you need to know as you get older, your bioavailability of the protein synthesis isn't as good, right? Anita brought up mitochondria, okay? Those things start to weaken, right? They start to degenerate as you get older. So you're not absorbing protein at age 60 the same way you did at age 30, okay? It's not as effective anymore. So that's why that needs to be a minimum too. And also I would absolutely recommend that you have 5 grams of creatine every single day. That's going to help you with your athletic performance, but it's also going to help your cognitive performance. There's several research studies that show the cognitive help that it does, the enhancement that it does for your cognitive ability with creatine. So I would make sure that's a staple in there too. Your omega-3s need to be in there. Make sure that you're getting those. There's other things with vitamin D and other amino acids you need to make sure they're at a certain level. It's a lot of nuances, but I mean, it really, you've got to just stay away from ultra high processed foods and do some of the things I talked about, and you'll be good.
Great. Thanks for answering my question. Time's up. So I think we're going to wrap up this workshop. I'm going to share this with the audience on LinkedIn and YouTube, and send you the file as you have requested, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys, for attending, for asking your questions. Thank you very much, Andrew, for being here. And I hope you all guys have a great new year, and you live as long as healthy as possible.
Before you go, I just want to say I dropped that link in the chat. Okay, those are some exercises. You're asking about specific exercises that you could do. There's a link to a YouTube. We got 25 different exercises there that are really quality exercises. You may want to take that link before you sign off.
Yes, I have.
Thank you for your engagement. been a pleasure being here today.
Yeah,
Bye-bye,
thank you for your
everyone.
insights. Thank you.
Right, thanks.
Really good.
You're
Bye-bye.
very welcome. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Welcome. Bye-bye.